Good evening, everybody. Today we got the expert tournament walkthrough. Very rough one based off of no wind knowledge and such like that. Um, this will be pretty playable in pro as well. A lot of the same adjustments, a lot of the same clubs. Um, Difference will obviously be, less wind, but you'll play them a lot of the same way since it's the same tees. Hole one. Um, this is the smartest way, in my opinion, to play this hole from the pro tee. It is the bounce shot off of that first fairway. You want to bounce that ball very close up to the edge of that rough, maybe a ring or so of safety net. You're going to use about 3 bars backspin and just a touch of side spin, depending, where you like your line here. If you're a little right of the hole, you'll want just a touch to the left. If we're talking header tailwind. So if we have a side wind, you'll do the wind to counter. You do a little side spin to counter the wind. But if we're talking head or tail, just that touch of side spin. I don't like going head on at this one anymore since there is a slight change to this fairway. Hence the reason I go off to the side a little bit and use a little bit of side spin. You're going to do about a 15% extra wind adjustment here. That is very important. My guess is it's about 10% from elevation and 5% from this small creek. So it's a little extra than your typical 10% adjustment, about 15%. And 3 backspin is left to right wind or right to left wind. You get head or tailwind, you're going to want to slightly tweak that up or down. Hole 2. So it's a tough one. Really, in my opinion, there's one way to play this hole. With your drive, you take that first bounce off this pad here, fairly far right on it. Don't go too right because it is downhill, and if you make your adjustment wrong or hit a great, you are going to hit the rough, and that is a big problem. But definitely towards the right side of this fairway with full right spin and full top spin and a small, very, very small amount of curl. Unless we have a left to right wind, then you don't need to curl. That'll leave you with a second shot, roughly past the bunker. You may be closer to the corner of that rough there if your driver's a little more lacking on the distance. But for most people playing expert, you should be slightly midway up that bunker or so. Second shot will be a wood shot. You're going to bounce this pad here. And usually I find just 1 bar of backspin and full right spin does the job. And just a touch of curl. And the only reason we only use a touch of curl is because these trees to the left become a problem if you curl into them. You can hit them. So only do as much curl as you're comfortable with there to get by. But that's just to help direct the ball more towards the cup. The green slants that way. And with a bunch of right spin, you'll get down that way either way. But that little curl is, in my experience, been the way to get closest to the pin and chance getting the albatross. It's a very, very hard hole to get an albatross. Consider it well played if you get the birdie, or I'm sorry, get the eagle. This one's a par 4 that, depending on the winds, could be an eagle necessity for the tournament. If we get any sort of tailwind, the black line is the line to choose. Full power. If you're using a power 4 ball or something like that, it's probably going to be full overpower, full topspin shot. Power 5, you can reduce that overpower. Maybe even if it's the right kind of wind, no overpower and make this bounce shot. I usually use a little bit of curl. I don't think it's necessary. You can still get a good play here without it, but I find it is a better way to control the bounce and get in towards the direction you're looking for. It's very easy, very, very easy to go the wrong way on this shot with a great shot. So be mindful, this is a perfect shot time. This water definitely plays, and it is a downhill shot again. So we're going to increase our wind measurement by about 10 to 15%. If we have headwind, you take this white line. Short of maybe having great clubs and a really good wind resistance ball, like maybe a bunny ball, you might be able to pull something off, but I wouldn't really risk it. I would go white line, bounce the first fairway. It's usually just about 1 to 2 bars of topspin. You don't need much. And it should roll fairly close to the end of that circular fairway in the middle, which will leave you with a thorn shot to the pin. It's definitely a playable shot. You can make that. It's obviously not as good as the eagle putt, but if we get headwind, going for that is an almost for sure hazard, maybe even water hazard. So I suggest the white line with headwind, black line with any sort of tailwind. Hole 4, you can play this with a bounce off the fairway, but in my opinion, from the pro tee, the most surefire way to get the ace is going to be the rough bump. You're going to play it just right of center fairway or center green. The reason for that is the way the ball curves on that green, it'll hit a slope on the right side and come back down towards the cup. If you go any more left, it hits a slope on the left and goes right, and you will end up right of the cup. So you want to play just a little right, 1 to 2 rings off of the green. It'll be about 2 bars topspin, and from a half a bar to 1 bar right spin, depending your line, depending what kind of wind we get, of course, is going to change the topspin. Say we get some heavy tailwind, you might want only 1 bar of topspin. Heavy headwind, you might want 2.5 or 3. But 2 is a good starting point going into the qualifier. Hole 5. Really, I believe there's 2 routes to play this hole standardly. There are a couple other options, but these are the 2 routes you're going to take. The drive is the same essentially for both, just changing your spin to result in a different area on that first fairway. The black line is a full topspin shot, or close to full, about 5 or 6 bars. You don't want more than that for sure. If we get any sort of tailwind, you want to dumb it down to 3 or 4 bars. And a bit of right spin. You don't need to overdo it, but usually 3 bars or so is good. And your first bounce will be just in front of that green tree. That is the most consistent spot on that fairway. That is where you want to land. That will show a pretty true ball guide. That does become difficult if the wind is, say, top right to bottom left, like the direction of that white line coming down. Headwind, that becomes hard to measure into. So you may want to tweak your shot accordingly to be able to measure. That may mean coming out a little further and using a little bit of curl to get the same result. But typically speaking, you can be able to make this measurement, no problem. If you line it up and get far enough up that fairway, the second shot is a curl shot to the left, following this black line. You land just outside of the rough before this bunker with 1 to 2 bars topspin, full right spin, heavy right curl. Heavy right curl. That'll come down, and this whole fairway towards the green and green slopes down back towards the pin. So the curl, the spin, and that little bit of topspin will get you down towards the cup. You can albatross from this shot. It's not a very likely shot, but it does end in a very pretty eagle shot. I'd say 8 out of 10 times. And those other 2, it's still going to end in an okay eagle shot. You're not going to be upset with it. The white line tends to be people's selected method when they have a little bit weaker clubs. And you want to make sure you're a little worried about going long here, full blasting like an extra mile or something like that, and you like playing your sniper, let's say, and it's only maybe a 7 or an 8, and you're not confident that you're going to get up there. The white line is a safe play as well. You use full right spin, and I believe it's a bar of backspin. I haven't taken the shot in a good while, but the idea is to kind of hug that tree line and come around the corner so that you end somewhere in the vicinity of this red dot, maybe hopefully a little more to the right. And that leaves you with a straight shot at the next fairway to hit that black dot. If you end up more towards where this red dot is, you may be shooting between the trees. So if you notice you are, be careful of how you adjust with the wind, because those trees are in play. But it is a makeable shot from there, and it definitely is a fairly easy chance to get the eagle as well. This line is actually two plays, essentially. They both follow the same exact idea, just with a different method. The most likely play you will be doing is going to be bouncing at the first dot. The second dot will be your second bounce into the rough with some topspin, about 4 or 5 bars topspin, a couple bars right, 1 or 2, maybe 3, depending on our wind. And you roll out into the green, hopefully semi-close to the pin. Not an easy ace. It's a par 4. This is not a par 3. So it is not an easy ace, but it can be done. But this is one that almost no matter the winds, you should be getting an eagle on. If the winds are favorable, or you have enough power or willing to risk a good ball, the white dot close to the second fairway, the second white dot up, will be your bounce on your drive. You fly straight to that spot, so you skip all the mumbo jumbo of bouncing these bunkers and risking going the wrong way or leaving yourself short and ending in the rough. But typically, most of us are going to only be able to do that with tailwind and like a power 3 ball. And when you do that, I'm fairly certain it was just about a bar of topspin with about 3 bars right spin. You want the topspin just to ensure you get out of that rough, but it also does greatly depend on how far up the rough you're coming. If you're coming a bit back, you'll definitely want the topspin. If you're coming right towards the edge of that rough, you're going to want backspin to slow that ball down. So it does depend your line. I typically play it when I do close to this dot, maybe a dash back, which is why I say 1 to 2 topspin. So it does depend how you play it. Trust your ball guide there. It's going to be pretty reliable. That rough is pretty true. So your ball guide should tell you what you need to do. If you're overpowering into the shot, like let's say you're using the tailwind to get up there and you can't make your measurement, I would just go with 1 bar backspin. Because if you over adjust and you adjust at the tip of the rough, or I'm sorry, you under adjust, you're just at the tip of the rough, you will likely save yourself still and make the eagle. If you hit the fairway with 1 bar backspin, it's probably still not going to be enough. You're going to fly long of the green. But topspin, you may go out of bounds. And that is the big concern. Don't go out of bounds here. This hole gives a lot of people problem. From the second tees, it is not easy. This is a shot I would suggest bringing Thor hammer or rocket, depending what you think can handle the situation best as your driver for the black line. That is a heavy backspin shot. Ballpark 8 backspin and a ton of right spin, possibly a little bit of curl, depending if we have right to left wind or left to right. It's fairly consistent in terms of getting near the pin. Very tricky ace. I suggest this more with a little bit crazier winds. So if we get something like 14-mile-an-hour headwind, this might be the safer play of the two. However, the white play is your ace opportunity. And this is a quarterback rough bump. You definitely want the quarterback for it. It is going to be your best chance with the best ball guide, the best accuracy. And you're going to just use a few bars of topspin, 3 or 4, I believe it is, and roll out of that rough. A little bit, it'll be, I think it's 3 bars of left spin. Again, it depends on your spot. Where I pick, it's about 3 bars of left spin. But top and left, roll yourself out of there at the pin. I suggest this shot if the winds are friendly for us at all. If they're lighter, or if we have tailwind where a backspin shot might not be such a good idea. Then this is probably going to be the play. There's also a couple other lines you can play. You can play a right side fairway backspin shot with your driver. A little harder to do because the elevation drops on the bounce. And you can also play a sniper shot from the bottom left of this fairway to by the black line, the first fairway. But those are harder to hit. You can easily mess those up and go short into the bunker or go long on the greens. These two I feel are the most consistent. No matter the wind conditions, you can find an answer for them. One of these two. I plan to bring the quarterback and go white line unless I find out the winds are just not calling for it. But I would say 80% of winds are going to be white line play. Pretty much the only one I'm not looking at the white line is going to be heavy headwind. Then I'll probably be looking at the black line. All right, hole 8. Again, really, there's a few ways to play this. This is kind of the two most generalized ways. A power slice might be a serious idea during this one. You can green and one this hole. It just depends on the winds they give us. But not knowing winds, we're going to go with the two basic ways to play this. Black line is your general drive straight up towards the fairway. It'll be a little bit of backspin unless we have headwind. But a little bit of backspin will be needed to slow this ball down, no matter your driver. Unless you're bringing a quarterback or rock, which is not a bad idea on this hole. The second shot from the black line is a thorn shot across the water, if you can get up high enough. If you don't get high enough, you're going to be a long iron, so I suggest bringing the Saturn. But you want one of those two clubs. You need the backspin here. You're going to bounce on the fairway or fringe. I prefer the fairway as it's a little further back, so you can actually get that backspin to make it to the pin. But if you're feeling a little unsure of the measurement and you're worried about going in the water, then go about by the fairway. Don't go green, it'll be too long. Or I'm sorry, the fringe. But don't go green, it'll be too long. It'll leave yourself with a really long putt that might not be makeable. That slope that's on the fringe and the fairway is a big part of what slows that ball down. So use that to your advantage. The white line is a different play. It is a both long shot play. So you're going to play a short drive, either with heavy backspin or a rough bump out of this rough to end in the fairway by the curve here by the lake. That'll leave you with a sniper shot to the green and a relatively straight one. You can still, there is a dip on the right side of the fairway near the water that if your ball hits that dip, it will bounce right and you could very easily have a water hazard. So it's not necessarily a safer play, but I feel like it is a generally better chance to get the drop. It is tough. It is still tough because it is a long shot and the green is uphill from that fairway just a tiny bit and they're sloping towards the water, so it's not all straight. And it's going to be a hard shot no matter which way you go if you go this way, but they are sinkable. If we can get the power slice, this will be deemed a must eagle hole. Without the power slice, consider this eagle is very nice. Birdie is where you're looking. This par 5, it's one of the tougher ones we get. Depending the winds we see, eagle might not even be really in the picture for most people. I kind of foresee that they'll be okay. They'll be kind of kind with the winds on this one because it is a very long hole and it is a very hard hole no matter the winds. The way that fairway zigzags in the beginning there with the bunkers surrounding it, it's very tricky to stay on green with directional winds. My preferred route is kind of just right in front of that bunker where you see that white dot with full topspin. And it's usually about a bar or two right spin. Unless if the wind is blowing left to right, don't use that right spin because you will go bunker. I usually will then go 1 bar left spin. But in any other situations, 2 bar right spin to get that ball rolling right. Because the more right you go, the closer you're going to be to the pin. And that leaves you with a second shot that you're going to need Cataclysm or Big Dog. Driver is not super important here if you can get up there on that fairway, but you need Cataclysm or Big Dog to reach the green. You need yardage. The trick to getting green is topspin at the very end of that fairway. Preferably clip that rough and come out straight at the pin. You can also do a lesser amount of topspin with left spin and kind of come in more towards the right side of that green, a little bit of curl for just playing the eagle. That's definitely a safe way to do it. But if you want the albatross, the best chance is rough bump that second bounce and come out. It'll still come out probably a little bit hot, but if you come out right at that pin, you can get it to drop. I've seen it. I have not hit it myself, but I've seen it done. I've been fairly close. It is doable. If you bring your sniper here, you're gonna be in trouble. You're gonna most likely either have to lay up short on that other fairway and make a thorn shot to the pin, or take a really risky shot with a lot of topspin and potentially end up in this rough or bunker before the green, which is a short shot, but it's never easy chipping a rough or bunker shot for eagle. So if you feel like that's worth the risk, if you're good at your bunker shots, then you want to bring the sniper, you can. But I'm a sniper fan by far, and I still don't suggest it. I suggest Big Dog or Cataclysm. Bring your yardage here. You're gonna need it. Power 3 ball as well, probably Kingmaker. You're gonna want everything you got on this hole. The people that top 3 their brackets will eagle this hole. So you're going to need to do it for a victory. Again, really rough guide, guys. This one is, it's harder to give multiple directions for one when I know the best routes to take for, generalized wind conditions. So as always, look forward to either Tuesday or Wednesday after I play my expert rounds. I will come up with a updated and revised one. It'll be much more specific on clubs, balls, and exact routes to take, exact landing points, and stuff like that. Help you guys go for a top 10 finish at least. This is going to be a tough one. This is likely going to be a pretty high scoring one. Going to definitely need to bring your A game. Best of luck to you. It will be a fun one, but it'll be a challenge. Love to hear how y'all do. If you haven't already done so, please hit that thumbs up. Please hit that sub. We'll see you next time.